Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning Blaque in once again to Authentic Black Goddess TV. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Also, for those of you tuned into my other networks, make sure you subscribe to the channels if you have not done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at QueenAShakur. Also on Instagram at divine_goddess_27. On Twitter at dgoddess27. Also on Patreon at QueenAShakur. On Clubhouse at QueenAShakur. And on OTWTube, TUBE, at QueenAShakur. Okay? So let's see who we have in here. Real Negro 27 is Blaque. Arelaya, I hope I said that right. Hello. Kenla, Lady J, Broken Silence, Pimp D Jack, Katia, The Magnificent One, Judah Queen, Queen Adia, Yvette, Because, Nakisha, Daryl Phyllis Black, Tania. You look so pretty, Queen. Hashtag we Black in the house. Yes, thank you, beloved. Melanated Brown, Superstar Empress. Queen Goddess has entered the queendom. Thank you, beloved. Misfits, Dan Ruckus, Black, Sweet Pea. Bravo, Queen, on both programs earlier. You showed your regalness as always. Thank you, beloved, for your kind words. Dripping Melanin, Leroy. Hey, Jeff ATL, Jadisi, Emperor Rex. Okay, Compton Creole, Brandy Crucines is Black. I seen your interview with Cabrera. I was all over it. Okay, thank you. Dripping Melanin says, I love you, Queen, and I love you right, Black. Lot Wizard, Amadaya Army. That's right, and you better know it. Okay. Silent D is Black, Blackfoot, and Rod. Okay, hello, Dan. All right, so everyone, let's get into it. Now, I told you all a couple of days ago that because it's Black History Month, I was going to be talking about, for my true crime episode, the lynching of Emmett Till. Now, and the reason this is very important is because a lot of young people don't know the whole story. Probably heard bits and pieces. They know that he was lynched. They don't know exactly what happened and exactly how nefarious it actually was and how heinous these devils were and are. And they still are. And these things are still going on today. But sometimes, often, they get swept under the rug. Or when we see these lynchings occur, they will lie and say that these people committed suicide. When you find Black men hanging from trees and things like that, even Black women. So with that all being said, I thought it was important to talk about this. Now, Marisha said, I enjoyed seeing you talk to Lisa Cabrera. You two rock. Thank you, beloved. Assalamu alaikum, Queen. Appreciate you so much. Glad you were on Lisa's show today. Well, thank you, Eric Walker. Thank you for your kind words. Okay. So I loved your show at Cabrera. Awesome. Thank you, Nakisha. I'm so glad for all of you who tuned in. Thank you so much for your support. You know, I love all of you. So with that being said, not only am I going to talk about the tragic lynching of Emmett Till, but I'm going to show clips of the untold documentary of Emmett Till so that you can see some of the things that his mother said and some of his relatives who were children at the time. And now they're elderly, you know, when they were talking about this. This documentary was filmed in 2005. Now, I'd heard about Emmett Till's death growing up. I remember my mother telling us about it. But I didn't know all the details until I watched that documentary. So I thought that was very important. So with that all being said, we're going to talk about that. Okay? So let's get into it. And let me read my fair use disclaimer, first of all, so I don't have to stop once I get started. Everyone, please also go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Let's go ahead and like and share the video. Okay? And don't forget to subscribe to the channels if you have not done so. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is used permitted by copyright statute that might also be infringing, or that might otherwise be infringing. Hello, Emmanuel. Thank you for your kind words. The show was great. You were lit. Thank you, Carol H. Okay, so now, as you all know, Emmett Till's death or his murder was the catalyst for the civil rights movement of 1955. Okay? I know a lot of people think it was Rosa Parks sitting down on the bus and refusing to get off, but it was actually the death of Emmett Till that got the whole thing started. Now, on August the 28th of 1955, Emmett was visiting his relatives in Mississippi. Mind you, he and his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, they lived in Chicago. And he'd gone to visit cousins and other relatives in Mississippi. Now, as being from up north, he wasn't used to the things that went on down south. Like, you know, he wasn't used to not looking white people in the eye, right? That you have to call them ma'am and sir and all of those things, because it was more freedom for Black people in the north, or it wasn't as, you know, racist as it was in the south, shall I say. It was racist in the north, but you know what I'm saying, wasn't so so seriously racist as it was in the south, of course. Now, how this all started, let's talk about who Emmett Till first was. Now, Emmett Till grew up in a working class neighborhood on the south side of Chicago, and he attended a segregated elementary school, but he was not prepared for the level of segregation that he would encounter when he went down to Mississippi. Okay, now his mother had warned him to be careful because of his race. Because one thing about Emmett is he loved pulling pranks. Okay, he loved playing games, you know, and pranking people. But his mother had warned him, you know, you can't go down there acting like that. You have to be much more careful because you're Black. So now on August the 24th, while he was standing with his cousins and some of his friends outside of a country store in Money, Mississippi, Emmett bragged that his girlfriend back home was white. Now, Emmett's African-American companions, disbelieving him, dared Emmett to ask the white woman sitting behind the corner store or the store counter for a date. He went in, bought some candy, and on the way out, he said, "Bye, baby," to the woman. Now, there were no witnesses in the store, but Carolyn Bryant, the woman behind the counter, later claimed that he grabbed her, made lewd advances, and wolf whistled at her as he sauntered out, is what she said. You remember the wolf whistle, right? Okay, so after all of that happened, of course, Carolyn went home and told this to her husband and Milam, and I think Milam was her cousin or brother or something like that. Anyway, she told them. So they went to Emmett's house, or they went to the home of Emmett's grandfather where he was staying. They went there and they asked if Emmett was in the house, and he said yes. Now, mind you, before all this, let me skip back. Before all of this, people in the town had heard whispers that Milam, J.W. Milam, right, and Roy Bryant, they'd heard that they were going to do something to Emmett, okay, because of what he supposedly did to Carolyn Bryant. So they went and told his grandfather, listen, you need to put that boy back on the train and put him back on the train or bus back to Chicago. You need to get him out of town. But his grandfather didn't, because obviously he didn't think it was that serious. Okay, so a few days went past and they didn't really hear much about it. So they probably thought it died down, you know, but some people were saying, no, they're not going to let this go. So I think it was on the third night, they came to the grandfather's house, knocked on the door, and J.W. Milam had a gun. And he asked him, he asked the grandfather, he said, "Where's that boy from Chicago?" And he says, "Well, he's back there in the bed asleep. What do you want with him?" He's like, "We want to talk to him. Go and bring him out here." And so, you know, they told him basically what they were accusing Emmett of, and they wanted to see him. So the grandfather begged him. He says, "No, please don't take the boy." He said, "Listen, when he gets up in the morning, I'll take him and put him on a bus back to Chicago." And J.W. Milam wasn't having it. He said, "No, we want him out here right now." So even in desperation, one of the women in the homes, I can't remember what relative she was to Emmett, but one of the women offered to give them money. She said, "Listen, I'll pay you. I'll give you money. Just leave him alone. You know, let him be." So now at that point, Roy Bryant, he actually was considering taking the money, you know, but J.W. Milam, he didn't even want to hear any of that. He's like, "No, we want him out here." So they brought him out, and then he told them, he said, "We're going to take him out here." And they said they had witnesses outside or something. If the witnesses say that's not him, then we'll let him go. But if that's him, he's coming with us. So now, mind you, the grandfather's thinking they're just going to take him off and maybe beat him, you know, scare him or whatever, and then send him on back. Of course, he never saw Emmett alive again. Because when Emmett, and this is another thing too, when Emmett woke up, you know, and they told him he's coming with them or whatever, and he's trying to get dressed, they were hurrying him and talking crazy, and they were mad because he wasn't addressing them as sir, which is what all the Black people, even men in Mississippi would say to the white men. They would address them as sir and ma'am. But Emmett wasn't doing that. He wasn't used to it because he was from Chicago. So that's another thing that irritated them. And so they took him on, and, you know, I'm going to let you see some of the clips of what the relatives and people say at the point that all of that occurred. Okay? Especially the men. That's why Black folks need to arm themselves. Absolutely. Emmett's family should have fought to the death. Yes, I was thinking the same thing, but his grandfather was old and frail. There was nothing he could have done, I'm sure. Maybe if there had been more Black men in the house, but I think this all played a part in it because his grandfather was old. This man was like 80-something years old. He was like late 70s or 80, you know. And with that all been said, he had no defense. They had guns, and he didn't, I'm sure. Queen, you and Lisa killed it. Mad love from me and mine. Thank you, David, for your kind words and for your contribution. Peace, love, and blessings to you. So that being said, I think that's one of the reasons that they felt they could go there and bombard the house and just kidnap Emmett up out of there, because there was no younger adult men there to protect and defend the house. If there had been, I think this story would have gone completely different. But his grandfather was, you know, an elderly man, and I don't think there's really much he could have done. And aside from him, there was only women in the house, and the rest were children. Because Emmett was 14, and his cousins, they were his age or younger. So there was not even any older teenage guys there, to my knowledge. Okay, so that all being said, let me go ahead and share my screen so I can show you all some of the footage from this documentary. And I'm going to be fast forwarding because, again, this is very long. I can't show all of it, of course. I'll show a few minutes of clips every now and then throughout. Okay.
In science.
Came to Chicago in 1955 to a funeral, and my mother and them allowed me to go back with him for vacation.
Hold on, I'm going to skip past this.
Nothing to that. And Emmett Till begged us not to tell our grandfather what happened, and we didn't. My aunt came out, and
that was it.
He and I left the store together. We didn't have any conversation with Mrs. Bryant. We left together. She came out of the store and went to her car, which was parked on the north side of the store. And as she was going to her car, that's when Emmett whistled at her, the famous wolf whistle.
Yes, he whistled at Carolyn Bryant when she came out of the store.
No one knew that he was going to whistle. And when he whistled, he scared everybody in the bunch. And when he saw our reaction, he got scared.
Miss Bryant came out, and she was going to her car, and someone said that she's going for a gun.
We all panicked, including Emmett. We jumped in the car, and when we got in the car just wasn't moving fast enough.
And we sped down the gravel road, and we looked behind us, and there's a car behind us. So we thinking that they're after us. So we pick up some speed, pull to the side of the road, and jump out of the car. And we ran down through the cotton field. And as we ran through the cotton field, cotton bolls were kind of green, they were hitting our legs, and some of us fell over each other, and the car went right on by. So we said, well, nothing to that. And Emmett Till begged us not to tell our grandfather what happened, and we didn't.
Our neighbor, Ruther May Crawford, she told us that we was going to hear some more about that. And I didn't think nothing of it because I'd never heard of anything like that before.
3 days had gone by, and this girl told us, Ruth told us, hey, you guys are going to hear some more about this.
We had heard this colored man said that they was going to get him. That's how we knew to go back to tell Mo was right. To take the boys to Grenada to the train station, put them on the train. He didn't do it.
So actually we forgot about it. We were 16, 12, 13, 14, 16 years old. So we went to Greenwood.
We all said, well, we going to town. We had picked some cotton and made some change. And my older brother said, well, I'm going to take y'all to Greenwood.
I carried them all to Greenwood, bought them a little wine around 12 or 12:30. I brought them back out.
Then about 2:30 in the morning, thereabout, I could hear people outside talking. And they talking about Emmett, and they talking about the boy from Chicago. They didn't say Emmett. They said there's a fat boy from Chicago.
Okay. Now we'll go back to that. He was playing which was bad at the time. Right. Didn't know what was going on, so he should have been out of there ASAP. Yes, he really didn't realize the gravity of what he had done. Now, Carolyn Bryant, she embellished the story and flat out lied, because all he in fact did was whistle. That's all he did was whistle, right? He didn't grab her. He didn't say anything lewd to her, any of that, like she said. Okay, so anyway, hold on. Let me go back to the article. Everyone, please, let's get the lights up. Let's get the lights up. Okay, so now after Carolyn went back and lied and everything, as you heard, they said they hadn't heard the end of it. And like I told you, they came to the house, but when they came to the house, here's the thing. They had a black guy with them. I think he was like 17 years old. They had a black guy with them. And this is what they would often do, get a black person involved, basically to try to just, well, this is just my opinion. They would usually, I think, get black people involved, so to throw some of the blame off of them. And also, if the black person knew what they were going to do, they would make the black person participate in the crime. So now you can't snitch on me because you helped us kill him. You had something to do with it. Or you helped us kidnap him. Or you're the one that pointed him out. So that's the kind of things they would do. So now, Roy Bryant, the proprietor of the store, and Carolyn Bryant's husband, they returned from a business trip a few days later, and they heard how Emmett had allegedly, or he heard how Emmett had allegedly spoken to the wife. Enraged, he went to the home of Emmett Till's great uncle. That wasn't his grandfather. That was his cousin's grandfather and his great uncle, Mose Wright. Okay. He also went with his half brother, J.W. Milam, in the early morning hours. Now, the pair demanded that they see him, and despite pleas from Mose Wright, they forced Emmett into their car, and after driving around in the night and perhaps beating Emmett in a tool house behind Milam's residence, they drove him down to the Tallahatchie River. Now, 3 days later, his corpse was discovered, but it was so disfigured that Mose Wright could only identify him by a ring that he was wearing that bore his father's initials. That's the only reason that he knew it was him, because he could not tell from the way he looked. Okay. Now, authorities wanted to bury the body quickly. And the reason they wanted to bury his body, because who are you? First of all, you're going to bury the body, and the mother hasn't even come and identified him herself. She hasn't made any funeral arrangements, but they wanted to hurry up and get rid of it because they don't want anybody finding out about this story. Because that's what they used to do in these small towns. They still do it to this day. They would, kill black people, lynch them, and then try to destroy the evidence, hurry up and hide the body, or the police would all be conspiring and lie about how the person died, just like they still do, in my opinion, talking about lynchings from trees or suicides and all that dumb stuff that they tell us. So yes, they wanted to go ahead and bury him so they could hide the story, sweep it under the rug, because they didn't want attention being brought down on Mississippi. And they also didn't want the NAACP coming down there, and getting things all stirred up. So authorities wanted to bury the body quickly, but Till's mother, Mamie Bradley, requested it be sent back to Chicago. She spoke to the authorities in Chicago and got them to demand that they return the body to her. But here's the thing: when they sent the body, they sent it in a box. But they told the funeral home director they did not want the casket opened. They didn't want the box to be opened. That he was not allowed to open it at all. So Mamie Till told him, "What do you mean we can't open it?" She says, "I paid money to have his body shipped here, and I can't open the box. How do I even know that's my son in there?" She said, "If you have a hammer, I'm going to open the box." So once she would not let it go, and she was determined that she would open it herself if he couldn't, then he told her, "Just go on home and I'll go ahead and open it." Okay, so now let's go back to the video. And again, I'm going to be fast forwarding.
And they
were upset. And Dad, and they drove toward money. After they left,
I think he wanted
them money not to take the boy, and that's when Roy kind of hesitated. But Marlon wouldn't have nothing of it. He had made up his mind. He was the one with the gun. He had a .45 in his hand, and he was calling the shots. And he claimed that he was just going to take him up the road and just whip him and turn him loose. That's what he said he was going to do.
They were telling my grandfather if he's not the one, they was going to bring him back. And they left. And after they left, nobody said anything to anybody.
And they marched him to the car, and they asked someone there, "Was this is the right boy?" And the answer was, "Here." And they drove toward money.
After they left, Mama was very upset. And Daddy was walking around, all he could say is, he was saying, that's all he could say.
I do know that you don't whistle at a white woman in Mississippi. And I was praying that they didn't kill him. I wasn't going to kill him. Just maybe torture him a little bit and bring a kid back to his grandfather.
When I'm laying there in the bed, waiting for them to bring him back. Every car that I would hear coming down the road, I thought it was them bringing him back. But then when it began to get turned towards dawn, I knew they weren't going to bring him back.
I know one thing, he was sad. That was the saddest day I ever seen in my life.
That's a damn shame when you have to pray for a motherfucker to torture. Hold on, let me read some of the comments. Someone said, did they actually believe these white people, of course, they was going to kill him? Yes, they did. Wow, powerless family. Yes, absolutely. Devils, 100%. Yep. That's a damn shame when you have to pray for an MF to torture your loved one. Right, as opposed to killing them. What you mean take him up the road and whip him, then turn him loose? The white lady accused him of whistling at her is currently living in Greenville, Mississippi, for all the real ones. Okay, Boston ass. Oh, yes. Okay, so murders, red room, devils are raggedy queen. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, she's still alive. And here's my thing. I'm glad you brought that up. She's still alive, and yes, she is still living. She's 80-something years old. She admitted in 2017, I believe it was, when this guy was writing a book about the story called The Blood of Emmett Till, I think it's the name. And so she admitted that she had lied. My question is this. She admitted that she had lied. There is no statute of limitations on murder, so therefore she is guilty of murder. And with that all being said, they got an Emmett Till exhibit in the AA Museum in DC. That's up like a funeral with the actual casket inside, and the Mayos turn red as hell. Hold on, they have an Emmett Till exhibit. while the blacks stared him down. I love to see it. Wow, Brandon, thanks for that insight into the topic and your contribution. Peace, love, and blessings to you. I didn't even know they had an Emmett Till exhibit. That's interesting. The Klan always had two women to accompany them when they killed or tortured a black person. I bet you one of them was Carolyn Bryant. She's still alive. Last I heard, she was living in Greenville, Mississippi. I visited the store where all of this started a few years ago. They said Emmett Till's father, was lynched in Europe by soldiers for consorting with a white woman too. We black people are living in a terror of a nightmare. Yes, that is what happened to his father, what they say, yes. And her brother was the governor at the time. Let me tell you something. Somebody says, I think Magnificent One says, I think she died last year. Let me tell you something. That is crazy, right? That is crazy. That's BS. They told them they were going to do what they were going to do to him. So I guess that was their lesser of the two evils. Right. She should have been arrested for lying on him, causing his death. Yes, it's in Oxford, Mississippi, I believe. Let me tell you something. This is the hypocrisy of the devils. Let me just say this. Hold on. Let me take this out for a second. This is the hypocrisy of the devils. Because for one, this woman admitted to what she did, and they never arrested her. But meanwhile, they'll come and get Bill Cosby and R. Kelly for decades old information. Now, whether it's true or not, it's not what I'm talking about. And I'm not capping for them or anything, or caping for them. What I'm saying is, listen to the point of it. They will come and get them for things that happened decades ago that they didn't admit to, but other people said they did it. My thing is, she admitted to it. And murder at that. So why didn't they arrest her? Because she's male and she said so. That's why. She is not dead. She still lives in Greenville. I didn't think she was dead, because if she was dead, that would have likely been all over the news. At least articles galore about it online. Her old A needs to be in jail right now. Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does. But you know what? I heard that her sons, two of her sons died young. And I hope that's true. Somebody said wrong, Tania. That was Milam's wife that died in like 2013. Okay. If she had died, wouldn't it have been on the news? Yes, I'm sure it would have. I don't think she's dead, because like I said, it was around 2017 when she confessed and told that guy who was writing that book, The Blood of Emmett Till, that she had in fact lied. I don't know what made her come out and tell the truth after all of this, but she flat out admitted she lied, and she recanted her statements. That's what the devil did. That's what the devil did. Until this day, I just don't understand how black men, knowing the history of Karens and Beckys and Susans and Amy's, I don't know how black men date them. I just don't. Okay? Do what you do, but that's just my opinion. I don't know how you date them when you know their history, and I don't know how black women date white men when you know their history. And here's the thing, even if the ones you're dating are not so devilish, I'm sure they have relatives and friends that are. So I'm just saying, I don't know how black people do that. I could not, because of the history of them. I absolutely could not. Okay? I guarantee you, the Jews do not marry Germans. I would be hard pressed to find information on that. Anyway, let me continue. So, after seeing the mutilated remains, she decided to have an open casket funeral so that the world could see what racist murderers had done to her only son. Jet, an African-American weekly magazine, published a photo of Emmett's corpse, and soon the mainstream media picked up the story. Now, less than 2 weeks after Emmett's body was buried, Milam and Bryant went on trial in a segregated courthouse in Sumner, Mississippi. There were few witnesses besides Mose Wright who positively identified the defendants as Emmett's killers. Now, so we're going to talk about that. I'm going to let you all see some more of this video.
Oh, Lord, that was sad. I felt for Bobo, Mama. I really did.
Then cut and pushed back in his mouth, and his private had been cut off.
When I heard that Emmett had been found and had been murdered, everybody just fell to pieces.
Well, there was shock, sadness, anger.
This morning with me. And if the death of my son can mean.
Let's hear her describe what happened or how he looked.
What was in there. And when I tell me that I have spent all of this money to get a body that I can't even look at, how do I know what's in the box?
Funeral director A.A. Rayner is prohibited from opening the box containing Emmett Lewis Till's remains.
I said, Mr. Rayner, do you have a hammer? He said, what do you mean? He said, yes, I have a hammer. I said, I mean, if you can't open the box, I can. And I'm going in the box. All right. He said, Miss Bradley, if you're that determined, I want you to go home and relax. He said, I'll go in the box and I will call you when I take the body out of the box. And when I was satisfied with that. I had to see, though, what was in there. And when I got back to, when he called me and I came back to the funeral home, about 3 blocks away, an odor met me that nearly knocked me out. I said, what on earth in the world is that? It was Emmett's body. That's how the smell was so strong until it covered a 2 or 3 block area.
Mamie Till Mosley sees her son for the first time.
My father was on one side of me, and Rayfield Moody was on the other side of me, and Jean was at my back. And I shrugged them. I said, turn me loose. I've got a job to do, and I don't have time to be fainting now. I saw his tongue had been choked out, and it was lying down on his chin. I saw that this eye was out, and it was lying about midway the cheek. I looked at this eye, and it was gone. I looked at the bridge of his nose, and it looked like someone had taken a meat chopper and chopped it. And I looked at his teeth, because I took so much pride in his teeth. His teeth were the prettiest things I'd ever seen in my life, I thought. And I only saw 2. Who were the rest of them? They'd just been knocked out. And I was looking at his ears. His ears were like mine. They curled. They're not attached, and they curled up. The same way mine are. And I didn't see the ear. Where's the ear? And that's when I discovered a hole about here, and I could see daylight on the other side. I said, now, was it necessary to shoot him? If that's a bullet hole, was that necessary? And I also discovered that they had taken an axe and they had gone straight down across his head, and the face and the back of the head were separate.
Now let me read some of the comments. She remains so gracious while describing this. Meat chopper. Yes, Judah Queen, that's what it sounds like. Devils. This is crazy because what was done in the dark to Emmett came to light with Kwawan Charles. Yes, absolutely. And this is why I tell you, these things still occur. These things still occur, okay? That's absolutely what happens. My heart is breaking. I am 50 years old and I have never heard all of this. That's what I'm trying to tell you, Michelle. People have not heard this, and that's why it's important to tell the story, because even when this documentary came out in 2005, it was not shown in a lot of places because people did not want people to know about it. Okay, I saw this back then when it first was released. Our people have endured so much and it continues today. Yes, it does. The savageness of the attack is so disgusting. Demons. Now, so listen, they cut off his private parts. They cut off his ears. They broke the bridge of his nose. They knocked out all of his teeth. They mutilated his eyes. One of them was gouged out, hanging on his face. The other one was completely snatched out. His tongue was choked out, hanging on his chin, right? They chopped him in the top of the head with an axe and separated his face from his head. How disgusting is that? And they did this, mind you, while he was alive. It was only after they finished torturing him and doing all of these heinous things to him that they decided to blow his brains out, to shoot him in the head, to put him out of his misery. But cutting off the castrating him and all this other stuff they did that while he was alive. So that's even more sickening. The signs are they're right in front of our faces. Things may calm now after all that you have seen taking place, but don't let your guard down, my beautiful Black people. Absolutely, absolutely, Compton. Am I wrong for wanting to serve justice? I'm sure many of people have wanted to throughout the years. We wouldn't do that to our best enemies. No, we wouldn't, but they want to call us savages. Clearly, we know who they are. Okay? And they still do these things. Don't let them fool you. They have not changed one bit. They are their ancestors. That is what we do know. And that is why they hate the truth of who they are. They don't want anyone to pull back the curtains and show who they really are. And that is the racist demons and devils. Many of them are. Many of them are. How do we get that lady outside of the gated community? I have never heard all of this sheet either. And you right, Empress. That's what I'm telling you. People have not heard it because they do not want it known. Queen Goddess, they are still doing this bullshit. Yes, absolutely they are. The devils are playing the same game they've always played. They've made the same moves on our past leaders. Now is the time for us to wake up. Yes, absolutely. Lots of wizards said Charles Bronson. Okay. 10 till midnight, perhaps. Right? Pimp DJ says, but they say they are Christians. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. But these bootlicks, bed wenches, and bed bugs haven't learned. They feel all white people are not bad. What shite, says Mary. Right. No way. Hold on, where did that comment go? Should anyone allow someone to take their child? Y'all heard Trump was acquitted. Oh, he was? Well, good for him. Dealing with the same bloodline that oppressed y'all's people for centuries. Yes. How can so-called human beings do this? Yeah, I like what you said. So-called human beings. Because clearly these people were animals. Okay? Neanderthals, no less. The same bloodline that clearly didn't give a F about beating, burning, raping, and dragging us around, or calling you a boy, girl, or a nigger just because they felt like it. Absolutely, comes to Creole Goddess. Absolutely. They also held his leg at an angle, and one of them scum jumped on his leg and broke it. Read The Blood of Emmett Till. Yes, that's the book that I was talking about. Chicago News 101 says no words. Absolutely, there are none. Thank you for your kind contribution. Peace, love, and blessings to you. That is so sad. Very sad, people. They ain't humans. Absolutely. Nobody human could do that. Okay. Let me tell you who can do these type of things, people. You've seen the numerous pictures of the lynchings. You've seen this, right? You've seen the numerous pictures of the lynchings. And you know what? Now, as I think about it, so what I'm going to do next week, no, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow, that's what I do. So tomorrow, I'm going to do a live on the lynchings, okay? Because here's the thing. These lynchings, these are people who stood around, cut off body parts of the dying people, and wanted to keep them as trophies and souvenirs. Who does that? Sat there and watched them burn to death, choke to death, struggle for life and to breathe. And they would bring their children there and have the children watch and teaching them, filling them with the same hatred that they had and teaching the children to be vicious and vile and savages nonetheless, right? And they're all standing around smiling, cheering, and enjoying themselves and having food and drinks, picnics, right? Where the term picnic comes from, pick a nigga, when they would lynch a black person, right? And with that all being said, they would take photos and put them on postcards and send them to friends and families and relatives. And some of them still have these things today. And did you know, people, and you can look this up, that there are some books, purses, jackets, shoes, and all of those things that look like leather, but they're made from the skin of dead African American people, okay? i.e. slaves. Yes, this is what they have done. And they also used to take the slaves' hair, shave their heads, rip their hair out, and stuff it in their furniture. This is all true. They even have a website that I saw once a few years ago where you could go in there and order this stuff. So if you think racism has died down a tad bit, it has not. It is still in full effect, just as much so as it ever was. Because why would they be still selling human skin, what they've made items out of it, like purses and books and jackets? Who does that? Prayers for all the Till lineage. Absolutely. Right. They are their devilish ace ancestors. They don't want all of this truth out. I bet that museum don't tell all of the facts. Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that all being said, let's go back because I want you to hear what some of the Hellman's crew had to say pertaining to this when this all was occurring. What some of the white people from Mississippi, what they had to say. Because just as they do now, they don't want the truth to get out. They want to talk trash about those who expose it. They did the same thing back then. And of course, we all know that.
We are doing.
Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam were arrested for the kidnapping and murder of Emmett Lewis Till.
We are doing all we can do to investigate the Till murder. We have made a complete investigation and plan to go as far as possible in the prosecution of the case. I may add that we have had the full cooperation of all the white and colored citizens of Lafleur County.
It's my opinion that the guilt begins with Mrs. Bryant, and I want to see Mrs. Bryant punished, her husband, and any other persons that were in on this thing. And I feel like the pressure should start from the President of the United States and be channeled all the way down to the township of Money, Mississippi. And I'm certainly of the opinion that inasmuch as my son had to die, that I don't want his death to be a vain thing. If it can further the cause of freedom, then I will say that he died a hero.
To the President of the United States, Mr. Dwight D. Eisenhower, White House, Washington, D.C.
And my son got just what he deserved. I was bombing my house. And
now this is the threats. Hold on, people. Now I'm going to let you all hear this because this is where she's going to talk about some of the things that were said to her, some of the threats that she received, and how The Hellman's crew was basically saying that her son got what he deserved. And, you know, this is the same thing they say today when there's an unarmed Black person killed by police. This is what they say. They got what they deserved. They shouldn't have resisted. They find ways to justify their own brutality, savagery, and animalistic and nefarious Neanderthal out behavior. This is what the racist devils do. So they did the same thing back then. It has not changed one bit. Please, let's get the likes up, everyone. Please like and share the video so that we draw more people into the viewing.
Mayor Daley's house, if I attended that trial. And my son got just what he deserved. And there was another nigger gone.
This is Mrs. Alma Spearman, the grandmother of Emmett Till. Have you had any letters, telephone calls, things like that?
A number of letters and many telephone calls.
What do they say?
Well, they threaten us with the words of the like niggers and savage or uncivilized people, or people that want to be ornery and want to press our charge, whether it be right or wrong. We've even been threatened that our house would be gone.
I think this is one of the worst and the brutalest incident ever happened in Mississippi since I've been here. And the colored people is awful depressed over it.
It was because it was a boy that they went there. They had to prove.
So that's just all clearly crazy. So anyway, let me continue with the article. So less than 2 weeks after Emmett's body was buried, Milam and Bryant went on trial in a segregated courthouse in Sumner, Mississippi. There were few witnesses other than Mose Wright, who positively identified the defendants as Emmett's killers. Now, on September 23rd, the all-white jury deliberated for less than an hour before issuing a verdict of not guilty, explaining that they believed the state had failed to prove the identity of the body. Now, you see how crafty these demons and devils were? Now, they beat this child until he was unrecognizable, threw him in the lake, tied to a cotton gin. And of course, his body was even more so disfigured because of the bloating and all of the decay and all of that. But the jury, their excuse for not finding these two devils guilty was because they said the state failed to prove the identity of the body, because clearly they couldn't identify him, or he didn't look the same, rather. He was only identified by a piece of jewelry that he was wearing. They say many people around the country were outraged by the decision and also by the state's decision not to indict Milam and Bryant on the separate charge for kidnapping. So let me tell you something. They didn't want to indict them on the charge of kidnapping. In fact, the jury, when they came back in less than an hour, let me tell you something. When a jury comes back quickly and they only take a short time to deliberate, they've already come to the conclusion, right? They usually do that when they found the person guilty. But in this case, they found them not guilty. Okay? Like if someone's on trial for murder and the jury comes back quick, that person 9 times out of 10 already knows that they're going to prison, because they usually come right back when it's a guilty verdict. It takes a while for them to deliberate over innocence when they have lots of evidence. But in this case, they came back in less than an hour. And in fact, one of the jury members admitted later after the trial that in fact, they could have come back much quicker, but that the people told them, no, don't make it look suspicious. You want to act like, at least act, pretend that you put some thought into it. So they said, rather than just coming right on back like they already had planned, because they already knew they weren't going to find these 2 white men guilty, they said they decided to go get some sodas and get a bite to eat just to make more time pass, a few more minutes, so it wouldn't look like they just came right on back. That's what the demons and devils did, okay? So now let's go back to the video.
do you think you could possibly be a help to them?
I don't know. I mean, just by answering whatever questions that they ask me.
Hold on, there's something I wanted you all to hear. Listen to this.
Boy,
Listen to the white man they're about to show.
they had to prove that they were superior. They had to prove it by taking away a 14-year-old boy. You know, it's in the virus, it's in the blood of the Mississippian. He can't help it.
I'd like for the NAACP or any colored organization anywhere to know that we are here giving all parties a free trial and intend to give a fair and impartial trial. And we don't need the help of the NAACP, and we don't intend for them to help. We never have any trouble until some of our southern niggas go up north and NAACP talks to them and they come back home.
Now, did y'all hear him? Did y'all hear what he said? He said they didn't want the NAACP coming down there. They didn't want nobody coming down there telling their black people nothing. He said we never have any trouble out of our niggers until some of our southern niggers go up north and NAACP talks to them and they come back home. Look at how he was reading with his slow. But here's the thing. What's ironic about that whole thing that he just said, he was trying to act as though they're not racist and they don't have any trouble and people are just making, mountains out of molehills. And the only reason all this is going on is because of the NAACP talking to their niggers. But he's calling them a nigger. So at the end of the day, please, how you acting like you're not racist? And how you blaming the NAACP for this? You see how they flip the script? This is what they always do. This is just like, okay, people who speak out against racism. Or no, a better example is the story that I did when I told you guys the other day how they don't want Project 1619 taught in schools. And they said people that are trying to teach that are trying to be divisive and trying to make America seem like it's more hateful and talk about the ills of America as opposed to all of the wonderful things that they've done. They haven't done anything wonderful. I'm sorry. Please tell me what. And most of the things they've done are the ills and are bad and nefarious. So they don't want anyone talking about it. And so they're acting like the people who want to teach the 1619 project are the devils, not the ones who did the things that are being told and talked about in the project. Same thing this racist devil was just sitting here saying. Said that the people from the South don't have any problem. Their niggers don't have any trouble till they go up north and the NAACP starts talking to them. Why? Because those people, the black people up north, were telling them what they shouldn't put up with down there in the South, how they should fight back and how they should stand for it. But he thinks that's the problem, but not your racist behind people. This is how these wicked demons really think. Anyway, everyone, please, let's get the likes up. Please like and share. Like and share. I think the 1619 thing is to distract from the fact we were there before them. I mean, everything they do is to distract from the fact that we were here before them. They know that. But the whole thing is they don't want that story told because they don't want us pulling out or airing out all of their dirty, nefarious laundry because they tried so hard collectively to hide the truth and to whitewash history. And when someone comes and shines a light on it, starts telling the truth over their fiction, they can't have that. So that for them is divisive. That's what it is. The distraction is them trying to act as though no one should talk about the things they've done. That's the distraction. We need to know that story. Absolutely. Queen, I believe that's Biden's daddy. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. His grandfather, at least. Okay, so let's go back because I'm going to end this in a second, but I want to go to the verdict. I want you all to see the reaction after the verdict is given.
there were little jars for people to drop money in stores, in the drugstore, and the dry cleaners, and commercial places in the town of Sumner for the defense of the two men accused of the murder. And I must say it was a strange, eerie feeling and very uncomfortable feeling to see these little jars of money being collected to defend two men who it seemed understood were the murderers.
What are the exact charges brought against Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam, Mr. Chatham?
The formal indictment is that they did willfully, unlawfully, feloniously, and of their malice aforethought.
Like a lot of talking and a lot of excitement. People coming in and out, especially the day that Mamie showed up. It was everybody, the reporters were running and hollering that Mamie Bradley is here.
What do you intend to do here today?
To answer any questions that the attorneys might ask me to answer. To the
How
best.
do you think you could possibly be a help to them?
I don't know. I mean, just by answering whatever questions that they ask me.
Do you have any evidence bearing on this case?
I do know that this is my son.
I remember the first day of the trial. Every window was filled with a father and his son or sons. And as I would come up the steps, they would aim the guns at me and they would pull the triggers and the little caps would pop and they would say, bang, bang, bang. And the fathers, they thought this was the cutest thing. And the little guys were just firing away. Well, you know, the hair on my neck and down my back was just standing straight. It was a frightening experience.
The reporters who were there were shocked and kind of astonished.
From the place of the
Animal.
looks like the new state witnesses, and they have also questioned, will talk about hearing groans from a shed. Is that correct? Yes.
When Carolyn Bryant made her testimony, I was not in the courtroom. They had me in another room. They didn't want me influenced by the witness, I guess. But when I heard the story, I knew for two reasons that was a lie. Number one, Emmett's speech impediment under stress would not allow him to get these things out. And number two, the respect that I had put into him for womankind and for mankind, he just wouldn't come off that way. When I saw the antics that were going on in the courtroom, I could tell that everything was against us. And when the jury retired to render their verdict, I noticed that the Black people who were lining the walls and the backs of the room, they were quietly leaving the courtroom. And I knew then that they knew we were not going to get a guilty verdict. And I said to my party, it's time for us to go. Congressman Diggs said to me, and miss the verdict? I said, this is one you don't want to hear. The verdict is not guilty. To satisfy me, they agreed to leave. And I guess about 45 minutes away from the courtroom, the verdict came in not guilty.
folks feel now that it's all over? Roy, how about you?
I'm just glad it's over with.
JW?
I am too.
Mrs. Bryant,
Feel fine.
how about you, Mrs. Milam? Did you expect this verdict?
Well, I was hoping, boy.
Well, the whole trial was just a farce, but the verdict was the one that I had expected to be given.
Do you feel that all the witnesses were brought into the case?
No, two of the witnesses were being held in protective custody in Sheriff Strider's jail in Charleston.
My first reaction when I saw that they come in and said not guilty was unbelief, anger, revenge. And one of the reasons that, I went back home was we had 2 guns. I just had the idea, hey, we could fight it out. My only problem was there was no gun for me. But I wanted revenge. I carried a chip on my shoulder for many years.
It was obvious that they had no trouble deciding that they were to let these men go free. And I later heard that, in fact, the reason it even took an hour or whatever hour so it took was that they simply were trying to be correct about the way they delivered their answer. But the answer was a foregone conclusion.
And then when they interviewed the foreman of the jury, he said it wouldn't have taken us that long, but they told us to make it look good. So we had some soda pop and beer and waited a little while, and then we came back with our verdict.
Okay, so now let's talk about this, because here's the thing. You all notice that the reporters were talking to Miss Mamie Till as if she had no business showing up at the courts. They asked her, what do you think your presence is going to do here today? What is your presence here for? She said to ask any questions that the attorneys might have. And then the other one asked her, he says, well, do you have any evidence that pertains to the case? Now, they knew darn well she didn't have any evidence that pertained to the case because, first of all, she was all the way in Chicago when the whole thing happened. She didn't have to have a reason for being there. Her son was killed. Of course, she's going to come to the trial. But do you see how they tried to make her? They were being sarcastic, snide remarks, if you could notice the way they were talking. Trying to act as though she didn't have any business being there. Exactly like the F, this is my darn son. Absolutely. Becky's true self. She has always shown you. Okay? How crazy. Hold on. Saudi says, getting a bite to eat while on our demise. Oh, how history repeats itself. Hello, Dylan Roof. Absolutely, Silent D. Absolutely. This is what they do. Thanks for your contribution and your insight to the topic. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Those white supremacists claim they are good Bible-believing Christians. They are the first to stand and say, God bless America. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, piss me off, Queen, trying to be smart. Yes, absolutely. That's what they were doing. They were trying to be facetious, no less. Okay? Make peace be still in my purse. That's why. Okay, Millie. They thought this was a slave plantation days, like she was going to be very docile and not show up for her own son's trial. Yes, and they were threatening her. Remember, prior to the trial, they were threatening not only her, but her mother. You remember they interviewed her mother, and she said they were threatening her as well and telling them, I don't know if you all heard that part, but she said they were telling them they were animals, saying they were savage. This is what white people were telling them now, telling Mamie Till's mother, that they're savages, they don't know how to behave, and all of this. But the savages are the ones who killed Emmett. But they're calling them savages. Do you see how that is so crazy? This is how these wicked demons and nefarious wicked people think. Oh, some troll in the chat more than likely just flag the chat, Queen. I don't care. I don't even care. Okay? They shut down your other live stream. Oh, really? They think this is their corporation. Whites are immigrants. I wonder where these artifacts are. That's a hot mess. So with that all been said, so there you have it, people. Now, when this was all over, let me just say, at the end, after the trial was over and everything, well, the J.W. Milam and Roy Bryant, they actually sold their story to a newspaper publication for $4,000 and told the whole story of everything that they did and admitted and confessed. Now, of course, they couldn't be retried because of double jeopardy. And that's why they went ahead and told the story. And they got paid for it. So yet again, profiting from their nefarious acts. This is what they did. So how crazy is that? So they want to acquit Trump's ace, but take down the Queen's page for speaking the truth. America is going to suffer greatly because of its wrongdoings and hypocrisy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And what is sad, she never really got justice for her son. No, she didn't. And unfortunately, she passed away even before Carolyn Bryant recanted her statements and admitted that she in fact lied, which Mamie Till always said that the woman had lied and made all that stuff up. So anyway, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast, people. They did shut down your other live stream for policy violation. What policy violation? They're so full of shites. I'm wondering what policy violation that was. Anyway, hold on. Let me see if I can see this on here. Hold on for 1 second, people. Yeah, they did, but don't worry, because I'm going to upload this on that channel. That's what I'm going to do. So with that all being said, I would like to thank you all for tuning Blaque in once again to Authentic Black Goddess TV. I would like to thank you all, and make sure that you like and share the video, subscribe to the channels if you haven't done so already. Also, make sure you click the notification bell, click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at QueenAShakur, and also on Instagram at Divine_Goddess_27, and on Twitter at DGoddess27, Clubhouse at QueenAShakur, OTW2 at QueenAShakur, and Patreon at QueenAShakur. So thank you all so much for tuning Blaque in. And until next time, Royals, I will talk to you all again soon.